Listen closely, dear friends, for I am about to share a tale of sacrifice, of solitary devotion, and of the unexpected bloom of companionship after decades of unyielding loneliness. This is the story of Edward, a man whose heart was so full of care for others that he spent 20 long years pouring out his love, his kindness, and his very soul into the lives of those around him, all the while quietly enduring the pain of solitude. And then, as if destiny itself decided it was time for a change, when he had grown old and his hair had turned silver with the wisdom of years, someone appeared, a gentle presence that would forever alter the course of his lonely life. In a small town nestled between whispering hills and vast, open fields, Edward was known by everyone, yet truly known by none. From a young age, he had possessed a tender spirit, a quiet, unassuming soul that shone in the darkness of the world like a beacon of gentle light. In the early days of his youth, Edward had been full of dreams and aspirations, eager to forge a path that would bring him both success and love. But life, in its mysterious and unpredictable ways, had other plans. Instead of pursuing his own desires, he found himself drawn to the needs of others. His compassion was boundless, and his heart, seemingly carved from the softest of materials, could not bear to see any soul in distress. For 20 long years, Edward dedicated himself to his singular mission: to care for those who were forgotten, to offer solace to those in despair, and to mend the broken pieces of lives that had been shattered by hardship. Every morning, as the sun cast its golden glow over the dewy fields, he would rise with quiet determination, ready to face whatever challenges the day might bring. He mended fences for elderly neighbors, tended to the gardens of those too frail to do it themselves, and lent a listening ear to anyone in need of comfort. His gentle smile and warm embrace were a constant reminder to the townsfolk that hope still flickered in the midst of adversity. Edward's life was a mosaic of selfless acts and silent sacrifices. In a world that often celebrated the loud and the flamboyant, his was a quiet, unremarkable existence, marked not by grand gestures, but by the small, everyday miracles of compassion. Yet, behind the tender kindness lay a deep, unspoken sorrow, a loneliness that clung to him like a shadow, even on the brightest of days. For all the love he gave, Edward never found time to care for himself. Relationships came and went, and while many appreciated his help, few ever truly saw the man behind the acts of service. He watched as friends found partners, as families grew and flourished, and as the seasons changed in the rhythm of shared joy and sorrow. And yet, through it all, he remained alone, silently harboring the quiet hope that one day, someone might return the love he so freely gave. Each day, his routine was a testament to resilience. In the gentle murmur of the village, one could hear the soft clatter of his footsteps as he moved from house to house, delivering a warm cup of tea, a well-timed word of encouragement, or a comforting presence during times of crisis. His hands, weathered by years of hard work, were always ready to offer assistance, and his eyes, though gentle and kind, held the secret burden of unfulfilled dreams. Edward's world was one of duty and care, a self-imposed exile from the pursuit of his own happiness. And yet, even as the years passed by like the silent drift of autumn leaves, he clung to a quiet, stubborn hope that life might one day reward his generosity with a glimpse of love in return. Time, as it does for all living things, moved inexorably forward. With each passing season, the vibrant hues of youth slowly faded into the soft, muted tones of middle age, and then, before he knew it, Edward found himself standing at the threshold of old age. His once robust frame had become stooped and fragile, his hands now trembling with the weight of countless memories and silent sacrifices. The village, which had once relied on his unfailing spirit, now looked upon him with a mixture of respect and pity, aware that the man who had given so much had long been running on empty. Yet, despite the toll that time had taken on his body, Edward's heart continued to beat with the same steady rhythm of compassion, a rhythm that had never wavered, even in the face of solitude. And then, as if orchestrated by fate itself, something extraordinary happened. One crisp autumn afternoon, when the golden light of the sun danced upon the dew-kissed fields and a gentle breeze carried the scent of ripened fruit through the air, a stranger arrived in the village. Her name was Grace, a woman whose presence was as unexpected as it was radiant, as if she had stepped out of a forgotten dream to bring a spark of hope into Edward's quiet world. Grace was a traveler, a wanderer with eyes that held the mysteries of distant lands and a smile that radiated warmth and understanding. In her, the villagers saw a kindred spirit, a person who had known both the sweetness of love and the bitterness of solitude. It was on that fateful afternoon that Grace's path converged with Edward's. The encounter was as unassuming as it was profound. A brief exchange of glances, a few kind words spoken in the soft cadence of a shared understanding. Edward, who had long resigned himself to a life of quiet isolation, found himself inexplicably drawn to Grace's gentle demeanor. In her eyes, he saw not judgment, but a deep, compassionate understanding, a recognition of the silent sacrifices he had made over the years. And in that moment, as the soft light of the setting sun bathed the village in a warm, forgiving glow, something shifted within him. The old man, who had spent 2 decades of his life caring for everyone but himself, felt a spark of something he had not felt in many years: hope. Grace, too, recognized the depth of Edward's soul, the quiet heroism of a man who had given everything, yet received so little in return. Over the days and weeks that followed, their paths intertwined in subtle, yet deeply meaningful ways. They would meet in the village square, sharing stories and memories beneath the vast, starlit sky. Grace listened intently as Edward recounted tales of long-forgotten kindness, of silent nights spent mending broken fences and healing wounded hearts. In her, he found not only a confidant, but a kindred spirit who had also known the sting of loneliness and the bittersweet taste of lost dreams. Their conversations were a slow, deliberate dance of words and emotions, a gentle unspooling of long-held secrets and unspoken desires. As they strolled along the winding paths of the village, the air around them seemed to shimmer with possibility. Grace's laughter, light and unburdened, resonated like a soft melody in Edward's ears, stirring memories of a time when life was filled with joy and unspoken promises. For the first time in decades, Edward allowed himself to dream, to imagine a future where he was not merely the caretaker of others, but a recipient of love and companionship. But, as is often the case in the most poignant of stories, the path to newfound happiness was not without its trials. The villagers, whose long-held perceptions of Edward had been shaped by years of witnessing his selfless devotion, were wary of this unexpected intrusion into his life. Rumors began to circulate, whispers of caution, murmurs of disbelief, as the old man's transformation took root. Some questioned the sincerity of Grace's intentions, while others wondered if Edward, in his desperate longing for affection, had merely fallen prey to the fickle allure of a stranger. The tension in the village grew palpable, each hushed conversation a reminder of the deep-seated prejudices and fears that can arise when the unexpected disrupts the familiar. Amidst the swirling gossip and cautious glances, Edward and Grace continued to nurture their fragile bond, determined to defy the skepticism that sought to tear them apart. They spent long afternoons by the banks of a gently flowing stream, with a soft murmur of water seemed to wash away the burdens of the past. In these moments of quiet intimacy, Edward would recount the silent years he had spent in solitude, the countless days marked by the unyielding monotony of caring for others, the silent sacrifices that had shaped his very soul, and the deep, abiding loneliness that had accompanied him like a shadow. Grace, with her empathetic heart, listened and understood, her eyes reflecting the sorrow and strength of a life marked by both joy and heartbreak. As the seasons turned, the village slowly began to embrace this unlikely union. The initial resistance gave way to a cautious acceptance as the warmth and sincerity of Edward and Grace's affection became impossible to ignore. Their love, born of quiet resilience and nurtured in the gentle glow of shared moments, began to weave its way into the fabric of village life. Neighbors who had once looked on with pity now smiled, their hearts touched by the gentle reminder that even the loneliest of souls can find solace in the arms of another. And though the scars of the past could not be erased, the promise of a shared future, however modest, shone like a beacon of hope amidst the remnants of regret and isolation. Yet, even as the days brightened with the promise of renewal, a lingering mystery remained, a subtle tension that hinted at secrets buried deep within the recesses of Edward's past. There were moments, fleeting and enigmatic, when the old man would stare into the distance with eyes that seemed to carry the weight of 1,000 untold stories. His silence in those moments spoke volumes, a silent testament to the love he had given away, the sacrifices he had made, and the unspoken grief of a life that had long been sacrificed at the altar of duty. Grace, ever perceptive, sensed that beneath the gentle surface of their blossoming romance lay a reservoir of sorrow and regret that he had never fully shared. And so, with tender persistence, she gently coaxed him to reveal the hidden chapters of his heart, a past filled with lost opportunities, unfulfilled dreams, and the quiet, enduring ache of a man who had given all for the sake of others. In those moments of raw vulnerability, as the twilight deepened and the stars began to cast their ancient light upon the earth, Edward opened his heart in a way he had never done before. He spoke of the nights spent in solitude, of the silent echoes of laughter and love that had once filled the empty corridors of his life, and of the endless years of self-sacrifice that had left him with a profound sense of isolation. His words, heavy with the sorrow of long-forgotten hopes, hung in the air like fragile wisps of smoke, delicate, ephemeral, and yet imbued with a power that touched the soul. Grace listened with quiet empathy, her own heart aching at the thought of all that he had endured. And in that moment, as the past and the present converged in a symphony of shared pain and hope, a deeper bond was forged between them, a bond that promised to carry them through the uncertainties of the future. Days melted into weeks, and weeks into months, as the gentle cadence of their love reshaped the contours of Edward's once lonely existence. The village, too, began to change, its collective hearts softened by the transformative power of compassion and understanding. Where once there had been whispered doubts and wary glances, now there were smiles, nods of approval, and a quiet celebration of a love that defied the odds. The simple act of caring, which had once defined Edward's entire existence, was now complemented by the reciprocal tenderness of a kindred spirit, a tender reminder that even in the twilight of life, the promise of love could ignite a flame bright enough to chase away the lingering shadows of solitude. Yet, as with all great tales, the passage of time brought with it new challenges and unforeseen twists. There were moments when the specter of Edward's past would resurface, a chance encounter with a long-lost friend, a stray memento from a bygone era that stirred memories of what might have been. Each of these moments was a delicate dance between sorrow and joy, a poignant reminder that life, in all its complexity, is a tapestry woven from both light and shadow. But through it all, Edward and Grace stood together, their intertwined lives a testament to the enduring power of love and the quiet strength that arises when two hearts refuse to yield to despair. In the final analysis, dear listener, the story of Edward is not merely a chronicle of loneliness or a record of decades spent in solitary service to others. It is a celebration of the indomitable human spirit, a reminder that even when the world seems to have forsaken us, when the echoes of our sacrifices reverberate through the empty halls of our hearts, there remains within us a capacity for renewal, for hope, and for love. Edward's journey, from a life defined by unyielding selflessness to a moment of rediscovery and tender companionship, is a living testament to the truth that it is never too late for the light of love to penetrate even the darkest corners of our existence. So let this tale serve as an enduring reminder to all who have ever felt alone in the vast expanse of the world. Though the road may be long and fraught with sorrow, there is always the possibility of a new beginning, a gentle, transformative moment when fate, in its infinite wisdom, bestows upon us the gift of connection. And in that gift, no matter how belated, we find the courage to open our hearts once more, to embrace the beauty of vulnerability, and to let love, in all its resplendent glory, illuminate the path ahead. Thus, as the twilight of one life gives way to the dawn of another, may the story of Edward inspire you to cherish every moment, to honor every sacrifice, and to never lose hope that even in the deepest solitude, love can find a way to bloom. For in the delicate interplay of light and shadow, in the gentle cadence of shared laughter and whispered dreams, lies the eternal promise of renewal, a promise that whispers, even in the quietest of hearts, that the journey of life is never truly over, but merely a prelude to the next, more wondrous chapter. And so, dear listener, as you carry this story within you, may you find solace in the knowledge that every act of kindness, every moment of selfless love, sows the seeds of a future replete with possibility. A future where the echoes of a lonely past are transformed into the harmonious chorus of a life enriched by connection, compassion, and the timeless magic of a love finally returned.